If you're looking for tips on chipping your Sterling irons from tight lies, then I've got 4 things to help you with here. The first would be just to stand tall. Part of good chipping, when you're have a ball that is sitting on top of something and it's not sitting on some grass that's fluffed up and basically teed up for you, you don't have much room to work with there. So by standing pretty tall, you're sort of eliminating the possibility of hitting it fat or minimizing the chance that you do hit it fat. There's this measurement from where your neck and spine intersect with your shoulders in the vertebrae here, the C7 vertebrae. And wherever that moves is going to play a role in dictating where the bottom of your swing arc is for your chipping. So if you're standing pretty tall and you position yourself such that at the bottom of your swing arc you're barely touching the ground, or just barely grazing the ground there, then you're going to minimize some chances of hitting it fast. So that's the first thing, just to stand pretty tall, and as long as you keep your height, then it's going to help out a lot. And actually, one additional thing that helps with is when you're playing a little bit taller or standing a little bit taller, and you strike the ball a little bit lower on the club face like this, that's going to give it a little bit more spin too. So generally speaking, there's a thing called vertical gear effect. So the higher up you strike the ball on the club face, the less it spins, and then as you move down towards the bottom of the club face, the more it spins. So you can actually hit good chips by hitting really low on the club face, even such that about half of the ball is on the club face and half of the ball is off. So you can almost skull it in a way and still be okay. Not all the way skull it, but where you'd be hitting the equator of the ball. But as long as you're just kind of picking it there, that's going to give it a little bit more spin. So so standing tall can help minimize fat shots and add a little bit of spin. So those are a couple of nice things there. And then the second tip I would say is to sweep or pick or collect the ball. So don't hit down on it, don't take a divot. Whenever I've tried to take divots or hit down on it, you got to be really, really precise with where you're hitting. Otherwise you can catch a little bit fat. There's a little bit more margin of error when you sweep or collect or pick the ball, and you're starting to see this with good chippers on tour now. And as the instructional notices that the good chippers are doing this, more players are doing it, more teachers are teaching it. So look at guys like Zach Johnson, Steve Stricker, guys that have really good short games, really good chipping games, and you'll see that they're not taking a lot of divot, they're just brushing the ground. So that's the second thing I would say. The third thing is just to be smooth. So don't take it back and then like a short amount of distance and then jerk through, pop through. Try and have a pendular type motion, a pendular type rhythm that does a couple things. When you're kind of working with a very light pendular motion, you're removing a little bit of the day-to-day muscle feels that we all have, where sometimes you feel a little bit better, a little bit worse, a little bit tighter, a little bit more relaxed. If you can just kind of remove some of that and just work a little bit more with gravity and let the club do the work, then that's going to be a little bit better for you. You'll have a little bit more chipping distance control. So if you take the club back and then just kind of ride it smoothly through, it almost feels like you're not really doing anything. It feels like very little effort when you do that, but that's going to help with your distance control. But then also another good reason for that is if you have any kind of tension, we don't have a lot of room to work with there to hit a good shot. So if you think about a maypole a tether ball going around a maypole. As long as there's no tension in that rope, the ball's going to come around the same every time in the same spot. So, but if you put a little tug on the rope, it's going to really disrupt the flow, and the ball's not going to go around as smoothly, and it's not going to come around to the same point in space. So that's another reason to kind of be loose and boneless and relaxed and smooth and rhythmic like that. It doesn't mean to be slow or deliberate or guiding it. Just kind of go back to the pendular type motion. It's the timing of gravity, and it's always going to be the same every day. So that's going to help with a little bit of consistency. And and then when we're talking about chipping from tight lies here, it's important that club is coming through the same every time. And if you can remove a little bit of that human effort element to it, it can help your chipping from these tight lies. And then the last thing I would say is about ball position. So there's a swing arc there. You don't have to try and hit down. You don't have to try and hit up. So when you know that there's this swing arc, it's just a matter of positioning yourself in the right spot so that when you can be smooth like that, the ball is basically just getting in the way. So you want to have it be slightly on the way down or almost level, not on the way up, of course. And how you can do that, this clever little way you can kind of find where to put the ball position. I'm going to recommend, I'll tell you to do it on the putting green, but if you think this will cause any problems with your superintendent or your local pro, then maybe do it from the fringe. Actually, maybe from the fringe would be a better idea. But you can maybe go about, if you're going to do it from the putting green, then maybe go about 5 or 8 feet from the hole, and then just do some very light chips so that if you do hit the ground, if you do hit the green, you're not going to really damage it. And then, so there's no tighter lie than doing it from a putting green. So if you can do all of these things, so stand pretty tall, sweep and pick it, try not to be taking divots, being smooth, and you can use you'll notice if you have your feet pretty well together here and you're not moving your weight around too much from left to right, that when you hit the ball, pay attention to the subtlety of whether or not the strike is, you got to lean a little bit to get to it, or you're catching it a little bit fat, and then you can just kind of like make subtle adjustments and then pay attention to where you need to have the ball, and you can make it relative to your foot, relative to your hips, your belt buckle, your logo, your swing circle center, that C7 vertebrae I was talking, whatever you want, to note where you need to have that ball to not feel like you're lunging towards it or not be catching it a little bit fat. So it's a nice little trick you can do, just doing these short little chips from the putting green. Again, maybe better from the fringe. So those are the things I would tell you as far as hopefully being able to help you chip from tight lies. So just to recap, stand tall to help minimize the chance of hitting it fat. Sweep or collect the ball. Don't take divots. That's going to help your consistency, your ball striking as well. Maybe give you a little bit more spin as well. Nice little byproduct. Be smooth. So don't be jerking around a lot. That's going to help with the consistency of the precision of your strike on the green, or not on the green, on the chip. And then test for your ball position if you think it's safe and if you think you're not going to damage the putting green. Do it from the putting green, otherwise maybe do it from the fringe. Just some short little chips, and pay attention to where your swing arc is bottoming out, and if you need to adjust a little bit one way or the other so that you can just stay in that same spot, keep your weight in the same spot, and just make a smooth little rhythmic turn through the ball. Simple, uncomplicated, and the ball just gets in the way. So those are the things I would tell you. Give those things a try out on the when you're doing your chipping, and hopefully you'll improve your performance on those tight chipping lies.